Mixed martial arts. No one else talks about it except us. On the ball.
Dublin City FM.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Mixed Martial Arts segment here on The Ball. My name is Neill Marshall and I'll be joining you for the next 10 minutes or so. And this is our first show since the new year, since Christmas really. So we've an awful lot to talk about. Notwithstanding, of course, the big event last night, which featured Jon Jones against Daniel Cormier. But before we get to that, we'll keep it on local turf and talk about Conor McGregor. And local turf is very apt because it's been as good as confirmed that if McGregor beats Dennis Siver in Boston coming up on January 18th, that the Croke Park or Aviva Stadium will host Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo for the championship. So that's pretty gigantic news. Dana White pretty much confirmed it today, saying that McGregor would be next in line for a title shot if he did beat Siver. McGregor has been the one who's pretty much touted non-stop the last few weeks that it's going to be Croke Park. So we've looked into it, and Croke Park do have booked off date in the summer for a non-GA event. So it's pretty telling that the at least tentative negotiations have begun. So if he can do it in Boston on January 18th, that could be one of the biggest sporting events in the country next year, if not the biggest in terms of capacity for a non-All-Ireland. And as well, it will just obviously be the biggest thing in mixed martial arts history. The only way you could really top the O2 show from 2014 would be McGregor fighting for the belt, and with 80,000 rabid Irish fans around him. It's just amazing to see that this has come to fruition, or almost has, one fight away from coming to fruition. Obviously, it was everybody's dream for McGregor to go as far as he could, but win or lose or draw, if he gets to Croke Park, it would just be monumental to have a UFC championship fight in the heart of Dublin City. Last night we had the light heavyweight championship on the line at UFC 182, Jones versus Cormier. I don't really need to tell you about the build-up more so than you probably already know. It was incredible. It couldn't have gone down better. We had two essentially undefeated fighters coming in. The challenger for the championship had never lost a round, let alone a fight. And these two guys genuinely didn't like each other. In terms of pay-per-view projections, a lot of insiders were saying that it will be the best or biggest, most bought event of the last couple of years, and probably of the next couple as well. How it all turned out was a different story. Obviously, there was a lot of eyes on the show, and unfortunately, we didn't get a very, how do you say, exciting, perhaps, maybe I'm being too drobe here, but fight for the casual fans who would have been tuning in, who wouldn't usually buy a UFC event. It was a very captivating fight for those who kind of know what to look for, but for people just coming in off the wave of hype that led into this fight, watching UFC for maybe the first or second time, this was a very tactical fight. It was not full of near falls. It wasn't full of people getting rocked. There wasn't too many, if any, proper submission attempts. But we did get some highlights that have huge impact on the career of Daniel Cormier. The first being that he walked into the octagon last night with a 100% takedown defense record. This was not the case by the second round. Jones was able to take him down quite a bit throughout the entire fight. Cormier only took Jones down once. Again, nobody ever seemed rocked, but there was a few bombs thrown by both men that were definitely clinical and definitely did hit. The score was 49-46 unanimous for Jon Jones. So myself and my friend and quite a lot of other people had Cormier down for rounds 2 and 3. One judge had Cormier down for round 3. The other two had him down for round 2. And that's how we got to the score of 49-46. Personally, it was very exciting for me when we went into the third round, because at that stage we had 2 left, and in my view, unfortunately the judge didn't agree, Cormier was winning the fight at that stage. It was a great effort by both men. Cormier did look kind of gassed towards the end. Obviously Jon Jones has gone a little bit further than him, and just looking at the two body types, one would presume that Jon Jones would have better cardiovascular attributes than Cormier. He retained his championship, and where we go next is interesting. For Jon Jones, I presume we go back to Gustafsson, and if he wins again, and if Cormier wins another fight, I presume you can rematch them. I don't think Dana White was very hot on the idea of doing a direct rematch. I think Gustafsson has always been pretty much told that he'd get Jones if he defeated Cormier, or pretty much get the winner of this. Daniel Cormier's next fight, that's going to be fascinating as well. We don't really have any idea of exactly where they're going to go with it, but it's been a great career for Daniel Cormier. I'm not saying he's down and out or he's done, but it was a great career. It was a great ascension. It was a great win streak. It was fantastic that he had never lost a round or had never been taken down. But Jon Jones is the best pound for pound fighter in the world for a reason. And if it wasn't for him going neck and neck for that accolade with Anderson Silva as he became the light heavyweight champion initially, he would have been the best pound for pound fighter undisputedly on the planet for the last number of years. So interesting to see where we go next. Donald Cerrone was in the semi-main event against Miles Jury. This also went to a unanimous decision, 30-27 for Cerrone. Brad Travers defeated Nate Marquardt in the similar fashion, all judges giving it 30-27. And Hector Lombard defeated Josh Berkman 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. All fights on the main card went the distance, which UFC are not going to be too happy with. Again, with so many fresh eyeballs on the product last night for the main event, one would have hoped that it would have been a slightly more tantalising, exciting card for those who aren't UFC or MMA diehards. But however, all finishes, or no finishes even, if you will, and all decisions on last night's main card. We've got some bonus news. Jon Jones and Cormier did win Fight of the Night, so that's a $50,000 bonus each. And Performance of the Night went to Paul Felder and Sean Jordan, both of whom competed and won on the preliminary card last night. Sean Jordan defeated Jared Cormier by KO in the first round of his fight, and Paul Felder defeated Danny Costello with a really impressive spinning back kick. Finally, we're just going to talk about CM Punk again because it's always a bit of a fun topic. A little bit of news with him. He did a question and answer session on Friday night over at the MGM Grand, where the weekend festivities for UFC 182 were taking place. This was pretty much an open mic format. It was prefaced at the start that he would rather answer MMA questions than talk about his pro wrestling career. This is obviously, for those of you who have seen the Off the Record show from Canada with Landsberg, it was a very, very touchy time when CM Punk was being asked about pro wrestling questions. So this is definitely something that he is pretty much finished talking about. In terms of the crowd questions, there wasn't very much that people were able to get out of him that we didn't already know. You have to understand, we're talking to essentially a hypothetical fighter who has a hypothetical fight against a hypothetical opponent at what we believe now to be middleweight. The one answer we do have is where CM Punk is going to do his first camp. He is going to Rufo Sport up in Milwaukee, the same place as Anthony Pettis. And also, funnily enough, the same camp that is home to Ben Askren. Ben Askren is, of course, maybe the best in his division, one of the best welterweights in the world, but who's yet to be signed by UFC. And when CM Punk signed to the UFC, Ben Askren was one of the biggest names that openly said he felt that it was kind of silly someone like him wasn't in the UFC, but somebody who has never had an amateur or professional mixed martial arts fight, CM Punk was. So CM Punk was asked about that at the Q&A, probably the most interesting thing, and he said he is yet to actually land in Milwaukee for the camp. They've yet to start, so he has not yet talked to Ben Askren. So there's a conversation that I'm sure he's really looking forward to having. He came off pretty personable, although he did seem stumped by a couple of the pro wrestling questions. Again, he kind of definitely wants to get beyond that. He wants to be seen as a credible part of the organisation, and of course that is not going to happen until the moment he makes his way to the octagon. So as we look forward to Siver versus McGregor, now that we know what's on the line, we're going to leave you with that, and until next time we'll be back with MMA. You can catch you can catch all our archive content on thisaintfake.com, or you can tune in around 4 o'clock next week on 103.2 FM.
On the ball.
Dublin City FM.